Hey everyone, welcome to this week's video. This week I'm turning a log to a bowl, and this pile of maple that you see there I've had drying for about a year, maybe and a half now, September of 2018 I think it was. So here I'm using a woodworm screw, and we'll pull up the tailstock in a second. So as I mentioned in my last video, my bandsaw blade broke, so this isn't quite as round as I'm used to having it on the lathe. So I'm just taking very light passes here until I can get it to somewhat round. It's out of balance, so I'm going pretty slow and being pretty cautious. Now starting to work on the bottom and side of the bowl, now that it's a little bit more round. But again, really going slow here. Some of the bark was coming off, which was expected, but still going really, really cautiously. And I'm using a bowl gouge here, Carter & Son 5/8 bowl gouge. There's a link in the description if you're interested. It is a very high quality tool, and you won't be disappointed if you try it. Switch now to an Easy Wood Tools Carbide cutter, just to help with some of the really rough parts, mainly so I don't have to keep sharpening as much the bowl gouge. So the idea going into this project was really to test the first piece out of that pile of maple that you saw at the beginning of the video, to really see, now that the moisture content is around 12%, 11%, that wondering how much cracking had happened, or how really the insides have held up with the sealing and drying process. So continuing with the 5/8 bowl gouge, using a combination of push cuts, pull cuts, and some shear scraping. Even though the bowl here is pretty much round, there's still some high and low spots, rough spots. Here I'm starting to work on the foot a little bit, flattening the bottom, making sure it's tight on the woodworm screw. Stopped a few times to make sure of that, since I didn't have the tailstock up. Here I'm using the diamond parting tool to start the recess and the foot. I get asked a lot, how do I decide between a mortise or a tenon, and it's really just personal preference. I've tried different ones, and although I could leave it like this and just use the mortise, I'm deciding to have a foot on it so it sits up a little bit from itself when it's displayed or used. Lots of bark still on there, which is what I was going for. Didn't need to turn it all off. The bark is really makes for the embellishment. And starting some sanding, starting with 80 grit. I don't film all of it, but ultimately I used 80 grit and went all the way up to 400 grit. And used a combination of hand sanding and power sanding, sanding with a lathe on, sanding with the lathe off. There was just quite a bit of sanding with this piece. Here I'm showing the Starbond products. I'm going to be using the one on the left, the Starbond Black CA Glue for this bowl. There was cracking, which was somewhat expected, and this Starbond product was really perfect for this application. I could have used resin, but it would have taken a lot longer and been a little bit messier. With this Starbond, they send you everything to from the small, very, very small applicator tip, as you see here, to get down in these cracks, which otherwise would be hard to get into. So just making sure that the CA glue is really in the crack and dripping down in so it fills the void completely. And these small applicator tips are perfect for that. So if you're interested in any Starbond products, please check out the link in the description. They're wonderful products. You can get thin, medium, medium thick, and thick, plus the accelerator. You can buy them individually or in packages. So sanding some of the CA glue off here with some power sanding with the lathe off. Here I have the bowl turned around, as you can see, and I'm using a bowl gouge to start the hollowing process. And I pretty much used this bowl gouge for the entire project. It is my favorite gouge. Again, Carter & Son, link in the description if you want to check it out. I did stop to sharpen quite a bit because this was, there's a lot of bark, a lot of roughness to this bowl. So here just going slow and taking out the bulk of the inside of the bowl. So stopping every so often to check the thickness and continuing with the bowl gouge, the 5/8 bowl gouge. And this really makes really easy work of really getting out a lot of material if you need to. Here is a close-up shot in real time of using the bowl gouge to make that corner, make the curve of the bowl, and continuing to hollow that out and get very clean cuts along the way. And getting down to what is almost the final thickness. I don't measure the thickness. This is a question I get a lot. I don't have calipers or, a measuring tool to measure the thickness. I probably should, but I don't. And it really just goes by feel and personal preference of how thick or thin you want the bowl or platter or whatever it is. And in this shot, using the bowl gouge to turn off some of the excess CA glue that I put on the inside. So I didn't film the CA glue going on in the inside, but it was the same process as the outside. And the inside sanding is same as the outside, from 80 grit up to 400 grit. And using the air gun to just get some excess dust and debris off of the bowl before putting some sanding sealer on it. This is just denatured alcohol here to get the fine debris and dust off. Starting now with the Axe abrasive paste before I move on to the Axe polishing paste. If you want to try the Axe, you get a 10% discount with code PF10. And even without the discount, it's a really good deal. So take advantage of the discount. Go over to axewoodpaste.com and check it out. They ship very fast, and you won't be disappointed with the product. Made in the USA and food safe. So after the paste is rubbed into the bowl and buffing it off with a clean paper towel. And this process doesn't take very long either. This clip may be sped up just a little bit, but it's not even at double speed. So they're really user-friendly products, the Axe products. And as you'll see when the lathe stops, especially after the polishing paste, it's really the only finishing product that you need. And the Axe polishing paste is next, which is one of my favorite parts. So the directions for this is to put some on. You don't need it liberally, you just need a little bit over the entire surface. Rub that in, and then turn the lathe on, and with the same paper towel, buff it in, and then with the clean paper towel, buff it off. And when you're buffing it off, you turn up the lathe speed, which you'll see me do in a minute. And there it is, all done. Taking it off the lathe, and I'll try to give the camera a close-up here. As usual, there'll be pictures at the end as well. But I'm happy with the way this one turned out. I think the Starbond CA glue really helped to bring it all together. And the bark is a nice touch. Sort of a live edge there. I could have turned it down more to take that part of the rim that is low off, but I think it really added to the bowl itself. So here are some photos. As usual, thank you for watching. I hope you like the video. Give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing if you haven't. Also, please share this video. It really helps support the channel. And until next time, thanks again. Peace out.